This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, what is going on, fine people? So good to see you again, and good to see this guy, because we missed you last week.
Thank you.
We also missed those golden pipes. So we're going to let him lead off the show.
All right, my pleasure. Coming up, with over $150 million in damage annually, feral swine are a threat to both the economy and the environment. We'll show you how USDA Wildlife Services is teaming up with other agencies to inform the public about the risk and effective control techniques. Inside this building sits a rare gem. In fact, it's one of only two that are still operational in Georgia. Find out what it is and where it's located. And then later, how one tiny seed can make a difference in the community. Jennifer Parson with a heartwarming story of one farmer's mission to feed others while also educating his neighbors on how to plant and harvest their own fruits and vegetables. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor.
With the ability to live anywhere in any climate and eat anything, feral hogs remain a huge problem across Georgia and beyond. Now, to address this issue, the USDA Wildlife Services organized a workshop in Marion County aimed at educating landowners about the various risks associated with these animals, as well as effective techniques for controlling their populations. Damon Jones has that story.
While feral swine might not have the same notoriety as some of the other invasive species here in Georgia, few have wreaked more havoc over the past decade. And that damage isn't just limited to the economy, as they also put a massive strain on the environment.
So according to some surveys done by the University of Georgia in 2015, feral swine are responsible for approximately $100 million just in agricultural damage in the state of Georgia alone. Above and beyond that, when you tie in all the natural resource damage, water quality issues, threatened and endangered species, you can tack on about another $50 million to that. So it's a $150 million problem. Keep in mind, that's an 8-year-old number now, so I'm certain that some of those have increased over time. Beyond that, how do you put a dollar value on water quality? How do you put a dollar value on a threatened and endangered species loss? So there's a lot of caveats to that number that are probably not representative.
So with feral swine having such a huge impact on a number of different levels, USDA Wildlife Services brought together several agencies for an event designed to inform the public about all the potential risks and some of the control options available.
In a workshop like this, you've got University of Georgia, the Georgia Department of Agriculture, the Georgia Association of Conservation Districts, USDA, Georgia DNR. You've got multiple entities all out here preaching the same message and working together to educate landowners on effective control techniques and allowing people to feel like they can make a difference and have an influence on the problems they're dealing with.
While there are a few different ways in dealing with this type of problem, such as repellents and shooting, there is one method that is recommended above the rest.
Large corral-style trapping, in our opinion, is the most effective control technique we have available at this time. There's certain characteristics. You want to build a large enough trap to hold a large number of pigs. Pigs travel in large groups or sounders, if you will. Secondly, you want to build that trap strong enough to hold a group of 20 angry caught pigs. There are some characteristics with the panels. We recommend a minimum height of 60 inches. It surprises a lot of people, but pigs are pretty decent athletes, and anything less than that, you will lose some pigs where they will jump over top of it.
And with feral hogs being the most reproductively capable large mammals in North America, capturing the entire group is a must, which is why picking a method and sticking with it is so vital.
If you're gonna go down the avenue of trying to utilize trapping on your property, it's highly recommended that be the only control technique you utilize. I'm never going to take a farmer's ability or right to carry a rifle behind their seat and shoot pigs. However, as long as those pigs are pressured, whether it's dog hunting, recreational sport hunting, thermal shooting, those pigs are constantly on the run. You're not going to have success getting those pigs to relax enough to remove that apprehension to where they will go inside that trap, allowing you to have success in removing that entire family group.
Reporting from Marion County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
As Georgians enjoy the spring weather, they do so with an abundance of fresh fruits and vegetables. However, when it comes to the most sought-after spring produce, strawberries top the list. Our John Holcomb traveled to Colquitt County to document the joy of picking this naturally sweet and delicious treat.
beautiful skies, rows of ripe strawberries, and family time. Things you can find on U-Pick operations across the state, just like this one, Ocklackney Ridge Farms in Moultrie, a strawberry operation started by the Hart family more than 2 decades ago when they decided to diversify their family farm and create a place for people to enjoy.
We're a diversified farm. We also do cotton, peanuts, small grains, and cattle. And we're in a very competitive area. There's some very good farmers in this area, so the competition for land is pretty intense. So we had to figure out a way to increase profitability. And my sister came up with this idea. She had been to Washington Farms outside of Athens in Clark County. And Daddy had just retired as a vocational ag teacher and thought it may be something that would fit. And then when I came back, since that time we've expanded it, and as far as the U-Pick business, and we do a little bit of direct sales, wholesaling red strawberries to end users, which would be cafeterias, mainly schools.
This year is their 22nd crop, and as you can see, they've got tons of perfectly ripe berries ready to be picked. However, getting them to this point hasn't been easy, as Hart says Mother Nature has been tricky.
We started with 80-degree temperatures in February, really set a crop, and that came in early March, and I thought, man, we're about to be off to the races. And since that time, it's just been kind of cool and warm, alternating with little spats of rain. But the rain has come in such a way this year that it really has not affected my quality very much. But I like for my growth curve to go up very quickly once we start picking. And this year it's been a very slow increase, and we just haven't been able to get the real volume that I want. But I will say we've had good participation.
Good participation indeed. In fact, Hart says that since the days of COVID, their business has grown year over year, so much so that they're planning on expanding their patch, something he says hasn't happened in more than a decade.
We originally had better than 3 acres of strawberries. We cut that back to 1.5 acres, and then we built that back up to what we have currently is about 2 acres. And if you look out in the field over my shoulder where those flags are, we're going to expand the patch a little bit for the first time in about 12 years. And that's to better service my wholesale buyers, my school systems, which we deal with most of the surrounding school systems, and to be able to supply those fresh strawberries for the school cafeterias, as well as keep my U-Pick business happy, in that we have, because my whole hallmark is that we don't pick anything that is not red, ripe, and ready to be used.
Reporting in Moultrie for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
After the break, a visit to Talbot County and a Georgia icon, a fully operational water-powered grist mill, and a man who's kept the stones grinding for nearly a century.
At Georgia Farm Bureau, we love to celebrate our members, which is why we're excited to announce a new partnership with Magnolia Loom, a proud Georgia-grown business that shares our values of supporting and promoting Georgia agriculture. For a limited time only, an exclusive collection of merchandise is available at magnolialoom.com for those who want to support the mission of Georgia Farm Bureau. This collection ends May 14th, so mark your calendars. To learn more about this partnership and how you can benefit, visit our social media pages or online at gfb.org.
Hey friends, thanks for joining us again on Growing Big with the Georgia Ports Authority. You know, the last few episodes have been talking a lot about our terminals, how we're increasing berth capacity, how we're increasing yard and rail capacity. Well, today, I'm at a warehouse just about a mile from the Garden City terminal, the single largest container terminal in the Western Hemisphere. Why are we here? Well, if we're gonna grow big successfully, the entire supply chain needs to be ramped up together, and that's what this building's all about. The building you see, and isn't it massive? Look how far it goes back. It's 300,000 square feet of transload, over 300 doors for processing. NFI Industries is going to operate this building, they will handle more than 400 containers a day, probably around 150,000 containers a year through this building alone. But it doesn't stop there. The Savannah area is adding over 21 million square feet of buildings today, right now being built, coming up out of the ground. There's another 30 million square feet on the drawing board. So at the end of the day, we're gonna have over 150 million square feet in the next 2 years, just in the local market. And what does that mean? That means that when you bring your business to Georgia and you use the Georgia Ports Authority, we will not have capacity issues. We're expanding our capacity so that we can meet your future needs. Thanks so much again for joining us on Growing Big with the Georgia Ports.
If grist mills could talk, this one would have a library full of stories. And no doubt, many of them would include Mike Buckner. Mike grew up on this property, and from an early age, knew what he wanted to do in life.
I have been running the mill for 55 years. Started when I was 14. I was, at that stage of my life, I was ready to make a little money, and my grandfather had died, and my grandmother was running the mill, and I decided if she'd let me run it, then I'd take over. There's been a mill here since 1840, and this is on the Patchalaggy Creek, which means pigeon roost in the Creek Indian terminology. But there's been a mill here since 1840. It was known as the John Downs Mill at that time, and my family, the Fielders, came in about 1890 and took over. During my college years down at ABAC, I would come home to run the grist mill, and we would have on a Saturday morning maybe 30, 40 people or vehicles backed up waiting to get a bushel or 2 bushels of corn ground. Today that's all past, that generation is gone, and we'll have 3 or 4 a year show up with corn to grind.
Why is that, Mike?
It's just that all the small farms are gone. There's nobody left around in this area growing small patches, small farms like we had at that time.
One of the many reasons why Mike and his wife Debbie have gone to great lengths to preserve the mill and the 5,000 acres that surround it. For example, each year in early November, they host Harvest Days in Old Talbot, a festival dedicated to the sights, sounds, and smells of a bygone era. The mill itself, still powered by water, and the actual stones, original. Yes, over 90 years old and still going strong. Now sure, there are the minor fixes from time to time, but if that's what it takes to keep it going, then so be it, says Mike. He also takes no shortcuts when packaging the cornmeal, grits, or flour. The logo you see on the bags, printed on this.
We added the printing press because we needed to print the meal bags. When there was a need for paper bags for the meal route, we had to have printed bags, and so we added a printing press.
But you do realize, since that time, there's electronic wonders that you could put the bag through.
Oh yeah, but the fun is the hand-fed press. You know, the thought of getting your hand caught. You know, you got to be quick.
Is that what makes you keep coming down here every day, Mike?
Oh yeah.
Just because of the old stuff.
Yeah.
Because of the old way of life.
The old way of life is simpler, and it's amazing that most of this equipment is over 100 years old, much older, but it's still operational. And we live in a society, a throwaway, dispensable society, where if it's 20 years old, it's outdated. They bring in the grain. A lot of times the corn comes on the cob, but we have a sheller. We can actually shell the corn for them, and then we can run it through a cleaner. My granddaddy in 1948 with electricity built an electric cleaner to sift the trash of weed seed out of the grain, and then it takes it upstairs by a belted conveyor upstairs and to a pipe over to the millstone. The millstone that you see turning, it weighs about a ton, and it spins about 350 RPM, and this grain actually lubricates the two stones. The bottom stone is stationary, but as the corn or wheat is fed down through it, the stones are so close together they would actually be grinding rock against rock if it weren't for the grain. And then we have a meal box, and that as the centrifugal force of the stone turns, it brings the ground flour or meal around to an opening where it comes into a box where we can bag it at that point.
Like I said, the way things used to be. Impressive, yes, but it's not the only piece of history on the property. Just a few feet from the mill sits Mike's other prized possession, good old engine number 6.
We created this museum because we already had so many artifacts in place. And I said I'd like to develop it more into an agricultural museum dating from the 1840s to 1940s, our period of time. And the locomotive in the track is depicting a logging railroad. Our locomotive is a Georgia locomotive built in Marietta, Georgia by the Glover family. They built about 200 locomotives for the mining and forest industry, and those locomotives were dispensed and sold all over the world. But this is the only surviving Glover locomotive that we know of. When you grow up on a place like this and you pick up the stones that the Indians carried and you are looking for artifacts, it becomes part of you, and you can't leave it. It's just part of you. My dad told me a few days before he died, we were here at the mill, and he said, he said, do you realize the first time I saw your mother, she was making mud pies down below the dam here. And that I had never heard that story before, so it meant a lot. But yes, my grandfather, my mother, and of course myself grew up here, and it's just part of me.
Well, time for our final break, but up next, from planting spinach to growing beans in a bucket, this Albany U-Pick has become an outdoor classroom of sorts where people can learn how to plant and harvest their own food. You're going to meet the man in charge of that classroom after this.
The average family spends $1,500 each year on food that ends up uneaten. Food is also the single largest category of material placed in municipal landfills, where it emits methane, a powerful greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. You can help reduce the environmental impacts of uneaten foods by composting. Compost is decomposed organic material, made from materials such as food scraps and yard waste. Compost recycles nutrients back into the soil and can help your garden grow by improving soil health, reducing greenhouse gas, and protecting much more. How do you compost? There are many options. You can collect food scraps in a covered bowl or bin in your kitchen and put them in your backyard composting bin or pile. You could even start a worm compost bin. They use less space, and the worms do all the work. You can drop off your food scraps to a municipal or community compost center. You can pay for a private compost pickup service. What can you compost? There are many food and paper products that can be composted. If you're composting at home, start with fruit and vegetable scraps. If you're planning to drop off food scraps, check with your municipal or community compost organizations. They may be able to accept other products as well. For more information, visit www.usda.gov/food loss and waste.
Well, finally this week, one group in South Georgia is changing the world one community garden at a time.
That's right. They're addressing the need for fresh, quality produce in food deserts while at the same time teaching locals how to grow their own fruits and veggies. Our Jennifer Parson has that story from Albany.
There's just more spinach.
Fernando Jackson, or Farmer Fredo as he's known in the community.
So this here we have cabbage.
Has a passion for feeding others.
We all come from different backgrounds. different places where we were born and raised, but we all got to eat. We can all come in and lend a hand to make somebody else's life better. And that's what the community is about.
And he's doing just that with this garden.
One crown is about the flower, so.
Located in the heart of Albany,
This garden space here where we're at today is literally a block away from a low-income housing unit that houses seniors that are 55 and up.
he says the closest grocery store from here is about 5 miles away, making it difficult for those in the area to get fresh produce nearby.
But people always ask, do I grow kale? So I do like 2 or 3 rows of it every season. So people kind of now know, let me stop by the garden, see what they have here, and that's part of what supplements like their community meals.
It's a U-Pick operation in the center of town.
These are Irish potatoes.
The sign posted outside says be respectful and pick what you need for the day.
I like to walk through the garden space and just eat again, like fresh from the field.
He grew up around farms and says his grandmother's Southern cooking inspired him to grow his own fruits and vegetables.
Have a responsibility to be stewards of the land that's around us, and here's a way you can be a steward and also give back to the people that you love and the people that you care about, and then it also gives you an opportunity to maybe make a new friend.
As stewards, Farmer Fredo, along with the rest of the Flint River Fresh team, teach their neighbors how to plant and harvest.
So our garden is set up as a learning ground, so we do workshops out here where we're teaching people how to plant spinach, how to plant broccoli. We have like little tools that we give people to use to help with plant spacing.
This community garden becomes a meeting space for people to fellowship and learn about agriculture.
And I think a lot of times in our hustle and bustle of the world and stuff that we live in, and everything being instant and like right at our fingertips, that sometimes we try to forget that we're designed to just to pause and to reflect and to enjoy the creation and stuff around us.
He says they even donate some of their produce to local food banks.
We kind of noticed that there was 2 things that were happening. There was like a generation of young people that didn't necessarily know where their food came from, but then we also realized that there were older people that didn't know how to grow. And so we utilized the community garden as an opportunity to educate people.
He says you can grow your own fruits and vegetables too.
You can take a 5-gallon bucket and grow for the community. This here is what we call like a sub-irrigation planter bucket. Creating is a water reservoir that kind of allows for the roots of the plants to kind of go downward, and it helps with water conservation. So you don't have to like water as much frequently.
And if you're wondering what to grow first,
I always start kids off with green beans. They have a nice little white flower that starts it off. In a bucket like this, we can plant 4 to 5 green bean plants.
you may be surprised by the possibilities of just one tiny seed.
You could be feeding somebody that's gonna like change the world and make a difference.
In Doherty County, I'm Jennifer Parson reporting for the Farm Monitor.
Jennifer, thanks so much. And don't forget, for all the latest ag news regarding food, recipes, and what's happening on Georgia farms, be sure you check out all of our social media platforms, including YouTube, Instagram, and of course, farm-monitor.com.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. Stay safe, and as always, have a great week.